Hey, everybody. Hello, it's Mary Lou from Spirit and Serve. Welcome to 108 Humanity. You're looking at a plethora of beautiful people in front of you this evening. Thank you for joining either now or later. We're really happy to have you. So, I'm going to do a few introductions and we're going to get started on this podcast. And I just ask that all of you who watch this have a little compassion. This is our second podcast, and I'm really happy to be here and have my dear friends and my partner and colleagues on tonight. And so we're kind of flowing as we go, but hopefully you'll enjoy the evening and you'll get some goodness out of it. So I'm going to take my glasses off for a minute. So my name is Mary Lou, and I own Spirit and Serve based out of both Las Vegas, Nevada and Northern Nevada. And so I've asked all the podcasters to give me a bio, and then I had to put my own together as well. So briefly, really briefly, I'm a healing woman and a spiritual woman, and also an IT person. So we've kind of got the human element and we got the spiritual element. So, and I do a lot of what I believe is good work for myself and for clients when it comes to healing services and yoga and meditation and pranayama and spiritual services. So that's who I am now. I know most of us have all morphed into who we are this very moment. So that's a little bit about me and my business, Spirit and Serve. But I want to talk to you a little bit briefly about 108 Humanity, so you know what we're looking to achieve and why we're here. Okay, New Year's Day, New Year's early morning, 2023. I had a dream, and that sounds so cliche, but I did have a dream. And the first words that came to me in my memory was 108 Humanity. And I was like, that is just an awesome name for something. And then it just kind of flowed through me, And it's like, you've got to get the people together. You've got to get your friends together. You've got to get these spiritual people and these healers together. You've got to get together the people that you've been walking the road with for about the past 10 or 15 years during this really cataclysmic change in time in our earth. And you basically have to get the teachers to teach. It's like, okay. And so that dream kind of built as I woke up in the morning, went outside and said my prayers, and here we are. And so the point of 108 Humanity is to really gather a large group of people. And, a lot come from the Las Vegas area. Some are from Northern Nevada, and some are all over the country. But we have a pretty dynamic, uncanny spiritual community of teachers and wisdom keepers right here in Las Vegas, of all places. Now, I believe it's because with the love and the greed that's associated with money and wanting material things, that there has to be a balance. And so the balance is the light, and you're looking at a lot of light this evening, right? So I believe that's why we have this incredible community and tribe of people and teachers and wisdom keepers and knowledge keepers and knowledge seekers here in the community. So I want to share with you a little bit why 108. Okay, and for this I have to put my glasses on. But where did the 108 come from? Besides the fact it came from my dream and from Spirit speaking to me. 108 is like a crazy auspicious number, right? So way back, dating back to the beginning of time, the beginning of humanity, 108 has been found in cultures, in religions, in spiritual communities, in nature, right? All the way around the board. So I wasn't completely surprised that the name came to me. So, a couple kind of cool facts, and someday I'll memorize all of these. So 70,000 BC, way back 70,000 BC, there was 108 shelled beads discovered in Central Africa, which I'm sure a lot of you realize Central Africa was probably the birthplace of humanity as we know it, right? During the 8th century BC, humans actually began using 108 beads to assist with their meditation and their prayers, okay? Bead eventually became an Anglo-Saxon word for bidet, which meant prayer. Okay. Siddhartha, which is an incredible book. For those of you who who walk the path or thinking about walking the path or thinking about what your journey is going to look like, and you're getting those feelings of wanting more and needing more in your life. Siddhartha is an amazing book. So he was a teacher of Buddhism, and he shared the number 108 with his people because Buddha actually came to him and said, create a string of 108 beads from soap berries, and I want you to recite the mantras by counting each bead. So mantra means prayer. Mantra means prayer. Okay. So Buddha then said, this is going to be a devotion to awakening the dedication to the right way of living, and devotion to the community of all beings. Okay. So those are a few examples. And then there's a gazillion different belief systems. So a couple of them who use 108. And it's pretty amazing to realize what an important number that is. The Buddhist 108 represents the number of passions in their belief system, which impeded enlightenment. Okay, the Hindus, 108 represents cosmic significance. So this is interesting. The distance between our human body and God within. 108 Vedic text, there's 108 life points in our human body and 108 chakras, right? So it represents cosmic significance in the Hindu belief system. Astrology, there's 12 houses and there's 9 planets. That's 108. Stonehenge locations, 108 feet in diameter. Jainism, there's 108 virtues. Sikhism, so the Sri Yantra, so it's a yantra symbol, okay? And the human body both have 108 points. And each human has masculine and feminine qualities, which is Shiva and Shakti, okay? 54 each, 108. Okay. Tibetans have 108 sacred holy books. Gnosticism, really interesting Gnosticism. Belief is each human has 108 chances of lifetimes to expel ego and transcend the material world. Taoism, one of my favorite, the Wu Qi has 108 postures. Tao and stillness, timelessness is represented by an empty circle. In Islam, 108 is referred to as God. So that number is referred to as their God, okay? The Bible references 108. So the Bible, the words firstborn and in truth and to forgive, are used 108 times. The Mayan culture, temples in Belize and Guatemala are 108 feet tall. The Christian belief systems, this is interesting. From All Souls Day to Christmas, so that's from November 2nd to December 25th each year, has 54 days and 54 nights as light transcends to the darkness and darkness back to the light for 108 times. Right? Chinese 108 is, my understanding is, the luckiest number. And Leonardo Fibonacci believed that is the number of wholeness of existence. So it's a little long, but I think it's really important because the message came. It's like, okay, 108 humanity, and I knew the traditional yoga piece, and then I started doing more research. I knew some of the other belief systems, but 108 is an incredibly auspicious number. So for me, 108 humanity means prayers for humanity, right? And so you're looking tonight at 6 people who have lived and walked the talk in this lifetime, and are hopefully going to share some wisdom and insight with you all tonight on the subject that we're going to talk about in just a minute. So to get moving, I want to introduce you guys and ladies to who we've got sitting in front of us this evening. So I'm just going to go from my right. So welcome, Candace Kant. So Candace Kant is a dear friend and sister of mine. She has had quite the lifetime and continues to have quite the lifetime. She is a PhD, an emeritus professor in history. She's a book author 2 or 3 times over. She is a teacher and a scholar of goddess spirituality. She's a course developer. Candace chairs the Department of Theology and Religious History from Cherry Hill Seminary back east, and she's also on the Interfaith Council of Southern Nevada. And so she's just an amazing, loving, warm, intellectual, intelligent, and sweet sister. So welcome this evening.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Good to see you. Yeah. So next up, actually on the right, which is ironic because you should be way on the left probably. On the right is Nathan and Samantha French. So Nathan's on the top right and Samantha's on the bottom. Hi, you guys. Dear friends of mine. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So Samantha and Nathan are really game changers. These folks, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 6 years, 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago.
Depends on when you think the start was.
Okay, yeah. 5 or 6 years ago, opened up this quite miraculous venue called Happy Earth Market, and literally in the heart of Las Vegas, literally in the city, literally in probably one of the most least likely places you would think you would want to open a business up, but it all had ridiculous meaning to it, really important meaning to it. So they are the owners of Happy Earth Market. Definitely a Earth Roots community, and Sam has spoken this so well, of healers and teachers and creatives in Las Vegas. They do a lot of mental health activism, which we're going to talk about just in a little bit before we start that podcast. Visual arts, music, spirituality. I think they like to think that, or they like to say, and I agree completely with lots of love, that they have a mini movement. They have mini movements in Las Vegas, a little bit underground movements, right? Sometimes adventurous, sometimes, a little bit dangerous, because they really, the market welcomed all, which is why it's an honor to have them here. And so through the arts, through music, through spirituality, through yoga, through meditation, through teaching, through drumming, and really through being present, they went way above and beyond for every person who was looking and seeking something.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And they're still here. They're a little more mobile now, but they're still here. So welcome, you guys. And finally, but certainly not lastly is Johnny. Johnny Bob, can you hear us? Johnny, you can hear us. Okay.
Yeah.
So Johnny is my partner, number one. And also number one, Johnny's the chief of the Western Shoshone Nation National Council and spiritual person for the Western Shoshone Nation. And so I could say much about him. And what I will say from my heart is a very kind, giving, loving soul who has more godliness flowing through him than probably any person I know, in just a myriad of ways. So Johnny has spent his life as a spiritual person for the nation, covered areas in Nevada, California, and Idaho, visiting the people, visiting the tribes of the nation, doing ceremonies, doing births, right? Doing gatherings, doing fandangos, dancing, eating, doing a lot of celebrations of life and a lot of funerals. So that has been his life. Everybody on this screen, including him, we've all had massive life changes the past 3 years, and so his included. So between him doing his thing and me doing my thing, we're building our lives back up and getting it back together and doing the work even better than before. So welcome, Johnny.
You're welcome.
You're welcome, man. Okay. Yeah. So let's get.
Don't forget Nikki.
Yeah, what about Nikki?
Yeah, forgot Nikki.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I was just looking at your beautiful faces like we spoke. So my dear friend Nikki. So this is Nicole Sliger. I can't believe I missed Nikki. Beautiful Nicole Sliger. So we've been sisters and friends for a number of years. And so she's another pillar of goodness and realness and light in our community of many throughout the city and throughout the state. So Nikki's a native Nevadan, native Las Vegan, actually, right? Native Las Vegan, yeah. She's a single mom. A little bit about her past. She was in the music business for a long time. She had a business called Shoestrings Promotions. And so she did a lot of behind the scenes management for big music and big productions here in Las Vegas. And that when I met you, that's what you were doing actually. So she's so many things. Beautiful soul, martial artist. She had an amazing experience. 2004, went to China, sat in the Shaolin Temple, and that pretty much changed her life. The messages she received about who she was and who she's supposed to be moving forward. And she came back and she was pregnant. And she had her first daughter, her only daughter, Chloe. And Chloe is another earth angel. Her daughter is an amazing, young, aspiring, more than aspiring actress. She is an actress, right? I'm sure she aspires to be more. Mom became an environmental activist. That's how we met, doing environmental activism in the streets a number of years ago here in Las Vegas and around the state. She hosts women's circles. Her business now is referred to as Self-Mastery Alchemy. Okay. And she does some psychedelic integration work, which is really interesting timing because Nevada is making big strides towards integrating psychedelics into the marketplace for people with mental illnesses, which pretty much includes every human on the planet one way or another. So, and she believes in healing herself first. So I apologize for didn't mean to miss you, but welcome and I love you. It's so good to see you. So that is everybody. We had one more showing up and he may show up a little later, but we want to get started. So get the teachers to teach. So these folks have spent, most of us have spent the past 10, 12 years in some type of family or community with each other. They really walk the talk. Okay. So hopefully what everybody gets out of this dialogue this evening, maybe you'll learn a little something, maybe something will, you'll get some introspection, maybe something will trigger you in a good way to maybe, start reaching out a little more in your own community or for yourself. So they all have a lot of wisdom to share and a lot of joy and a lot of laughter and sometimes dissension in a really good, healthy way, right? To help this earth move forward. So healers, seers, light workers, spiritual people, teachers of self-love and self-respect. So that's who we've got here. So we're going to kick it off here tonight. Tonight's topic.
Sorry.
Second go. Are you back? You're back.
Yeah, sorry. Losing juice.
Okay. Tonight's topic. We put together about 8 categories. So and they're kind of cool. You're going to hear about life activism. You're going to hear about healing medicines of the world. You're going to hear about life-saving teachings. You're going to hear about sacred gifts of our earth, what Mama Earth gives us. You're going to hear about spiritual living, and then we have a whole hodgepodge category for everything else. So tonight kind of falls under life-saving teachings. And I really felt this topic was apropos for the time we're living in right now because Mama Earth is suffering, and yet a lot of humans are thriving and full of abundance and joy-filled and happy and building and seeding and growing. And at the same time, many are not, right? And so we're seeing a lot of sickness and a lot of fallout in humanity and our economy with the earth, with the air, with the wind, with the water, right? All of that. So the topic we chose tonight hopefully will interest quite a few of you. So the topic is forgiveness. The topic is forgiveness, okay? And so what I want to start out with, and this is an open forum dialogue, so when you want to speak, okay? And I will just kind of facilitate us and kind of navigate us through this evening. So the topic is forgiveness, and I believe, and many of us believe, that forgiveness is the most potent medicine that's ever been gifted to humanity, okay? And I'm not so sure, the viewers may agree to that, so I'm hoping that we all learn a little bit from each other. So I'm going to kick it off with, how do you feel, okay? How do you feel about the belief that forgiveness heals and frees all, for starters? How do you feel about that? Do you agree with it? Do you not disagree with it? Are you not sure? How do you feel about that? just
Well,
open up.
I think it's a very accurate statement because forgiveness lets us let go of anger, and anger is a really destructive emotion to have. If you hold anger inside of you, after a while, it shows up physically. So if you can release and let that go, um, I think it is very healing and very helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. Other thoughts? Anybody?
Forgiveness is it definitely leads to your own internal peace.
Mm.
And when you can have internal peace, hopefully that spreads throughout everybody in your life, and they can also have some peace, or at least peace in.
Can you repeat that last part?
I said it gives us internal peace, and if you have internal peace, hopefully that can spread to others, and they can get peace at least while they're in your presence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What about Nate or Johnny or Nikki? How do you feel about the belief that forgiveness heals and frees everyone?
Agree.
Yeah.
I have a little story to tell. Is now the time you like to.
Yes.
So in 2006, I learned my best lesson about forgiveness, and I feel it was divinely guided. My mother was killed by a drunk driver, and
Mm-hmm.
when her best friend that was in the car with her shared the story with me of how things played out that night, they went to a concert. My stepfather didn't go because my mom and my dad got into an argument. And so my mom was a little bit upset that night and wanted to get home. And they skipped. Normally they would go and get root beer floats after the concerts. And they skipped it that night because my mom wanted to make it home. So they get on the road. It's about a 45-minute drive back to their home where they lived. And along that route, my mother had a hot flash and announced to the car, "I'm taking off my seatbelt," and reached down to grab her little handheld fan. And at that exact moment, this drunk woman connected with their car, caused the car to roll, and led to my mother's demise. As her friend was telling me this story, I couldn't help but think how everything had to happen precisely the way it did that night in order for that microsecond of connection to have happened in a way that would have caused my mother to die. And I think it was one of the first times that I believed in fate and destiny.
Mm-hmm.
And I contemplated it deeply. So we went through the process of the court hearing and holding this woman accountable, and come to find out that she had been in trouble with the law for drinking and driving.
Wow.
Wasn't remorseful about her.
Mm-hmm.
Even so far as to blame my mother for taking off her seatbelt. My family, the friends that were in the car, were enraged, as understandable, you know. And I couldn't find it in myself to be angry. I was sad.
Mm.
Because of that, the way things were revealed to me at that moment, I had a peace inside of me that understood things were just in the order that they needed to be, and also realized that forgiving the woman that killed my mother had nothing to do with her. Obviously, she wasn't remorseful. Obviously, she was a miserable human being. But forgiving her was a gift for myself that brought me peace that I still live with today. And I try to share that with as many people as I can, because I mean, anger and resentment is the type of cancer.
Toxic.
And, you know, anger literally lives in your liver and leads to liver things of that nature. So, not to mention the toxicity that spreads throughout your community and your family and friends. and such. So
Thank you for sharing that story with us. You did it with a lot of strength and wisdom. And so that was, horrific at the moment and for years forward. I know that personally with you. So thank you for sharing that. And wow, that's definitely, something to aspire to for all people. Obviously not that circumstance, but just having that open heart and open soul and realization of knowing yourself. Yeah, I'm proud of you. So what about a man, Nathan or Johnny? How do you guys feel about the belief that forgiveness heals and ultimately frees everyone? Do you believe it? Have you experienced it?
I think it's true. I think I have a tough time with that. I like to hold my resentments. They
Huh.
become like part of me, where they're really tough to let go.
It's not always easy to forgive.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Yep. But if I do forgive, there's no boundary. I don't forget though. That's very hard for me.
That's
I
a
can
very,
forget.
very good point.
Yeah, I'm the quickest person in the world to throw up a boundary. I call them my walls, but I'll throw it up and there's no coming back. Like that's
Hmm.
it. I'm done.
So have you ever experienced forgiving someone? Have you ever actually consciously said, I'm going to forgive this person?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So what was the outcome of that? I mean, what was the experience like, the outcome for you?
Yeah, especially like with my dad. My dad was an alcoholic till I was like 13. But then it's hard not to forgive him because he became the best father ever.
Hmm.
Like seriously, you couldn't ask for a better dad, and he has given it 110% since he quit drinking. So
Wow.
yeah.
I'm such a big believer, and I know you all are, but I'm saying it for everyone else, of we are energy, right? So when you forgive, they feel it, right? They feel it, they receive it. And I believe it's a win-win. So that's a beautiful story. Johnny, do you have anything to comment about that? How do you feel about the belief that forgiveness ultimately heals and frees all? I don't want to put you on the spot, but kind
Yeah,
of.
my belief and forgiveness is for the people that have passed on. There's so many people out there that did their thing and didn't finish their work of what they were doing.
Mm,
And they haven't really thought about saying, I love you sometimes, or, I forgive you for something that I have done or they have done. But it it seemed like that every one of those persons I know, relatives,
mhm.
cousins, all mom and dad, and I know that in their heart how they feel before they passed on. So I forgive them for when I was growing up being a crazy guy, and and in my language there's always a word for each one of those people that passed on. But sometimes you run into somebody like my uncle that doesn't like things that you do and pull me every once in a while, even to this day, probably. And he's in his about 90s by now. And he feel like that I could do better, but I forgive him for all the things that he said to me, and for that forgiveness is something on my heart to see that we keep on going doing what we need to do, because we're in the same situation. I don't know what he's thinking, and he doesn't know too much about how I feel, but I feel to him that he's still my uncle, he's still my dad, he's still everything to me. He have gotten to where he's starting to open up, but being opening up to me, he's forgiving me. That forgiveness is setting to where that love is coming into his heart and my heart, that we forgive each other.
It's beautiful.
That's something I just thought about when you guys were talking about forgiveness and people that has that future and things that they wanted to say to you before they passed.
Good, good. Thank you. So, kind of building on that, building on the whole forgiveness model and thought. So the next question, I guess you all answered it in a sense, but the next question I kind of wanted to pose was, have you forgiven those who you feel have harmed you? And if you have, why? Why did you choose to forgive them? And how did you do it? So I think the how would be interesting. So I think we kind of touched on this. And I mean, when I do work with clients, people I work with, primarily women, but men, I'll ask them to produce a list of people they know they need to forgive, right? And usually it's about 8 to 10 people, right? And I'd say 90% of the time the person says, oh, I've forgiven them. But it is a process, right? To acknowledge, understand, agree to understand, release, and free yourself in terms of forgiveness. It's a process of becoming compassionate, right? For those who may have hurt you the most, because their life and all life is sacred. This is my belief, right? And that's what I like to teach. So where are you all at in that? If you'd like to share, I mean, Johnny, you just shared a little bit, which is awesome. But have you forgiven those who you believe have harmed you? And if you have, why have you? And maybe a little bit about how you've done it. A little bit about how you've done it, and what's worked for you, or what hasn't worked for you.
Well, can I just say I'm a work in progress? Say yes to some that I have forgiven, and I'm still working on others because it doesn't happen overnight.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, but in one case in particular, I started just by talking to the person and just approaching them and communicating. And then we both decided we'd pull up our big girl panties and go to lunch. And we were good friends after that forever. Yeah.
That's very cool. And we are all a work in progress, for doggone sure. We are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think it's important not to just give this process lip service and say, oh, I've forgiven them, before taking the time to really be with your emotions and analyze what the thoughts are around whatever the what's being forgiven, and consider the energetics of it. So first of all, is this something that needs a boundary? Is this something that needs a conversation? Is it possible to forgive somebody and then allow them to be in your life still? Is it a requirement that they no longer be in your life? So I think it's a pretty complex conversation about root of the truth of what the violation is. Is it perceived? Is it an actual violation? And then ultimately it's about energy, the energy of it. I can choose to forgive somebody and also choose not to have them in my life.
Absolutely.
And
Which
Yeah,
is very
100%.
healthy. Yeah.
Yep.
Sometimes you have to do that for your own protection.
I think that's where the forgive but won't forget comes in, and that's where the boundaries come in, and healthy boundaries are good.
Practice
Healthy boundaries are good because it allows you to stay in that forgiveness mode in a way. You know, I know from my own personal experience of people that have just done me wrong, and I know it. My forgiveness really literally comes from the fact that they're a human being living the life that they know, which is what they've been taught through their own families and school and society and church, whatever. We're all products of this environment that we are in. Some of us don't have a choice of being in the environment we're in. I understand that, but for the most part, most, people aren't compassionate or are just kind of jerks. I don't know I'm trying to be nice here. But like, they're just not in a good space where they are capable of not causing harm to other people. And so like to just have understanding of just human nature in general and knowing that we're all just doing the best we can. It's easy to forgive somebody, for me, by remembering that, but also, understanding, okay, well, I understand that person. I know that kind of characteristic and it matches across the board. I'm going to put up my natural boundary right away and just not give myself so much to that, being, because I don't need to. That's where my inner peace comes to. So,
Well, we can forgive, but we don't have the power to release another person from their own karma, from their own accountability.
exactly,
Yeah.
Very true.
exactly.
Well, usually I try to figure out my role before I make any decision.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of times if I start thinking about it, I was actually the asshole of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sometimes understanding, yeah. And sometimes just understanding.
Well, that's really more than forgiveness. What frees me is acknowledging my role, and then if something comes out of that and we can be cool again, then cool. But hey, I try to figure this out,
Yeah.
And to what Candace said, forgiveness doesn't always mean that the other person is off the hook.
Right.
No, 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that goes back to the saying, right? Forgiveness lets you off the hook, lets you live your life without the bondage of resentment.
And I learned in some of my darkest hours in my life that I absolutely had to forgive. And for me, again, it was the equivalent of a dream. It was a download. And Spirit and Creator said to me, you've got to forgive everybody. And so it is interesting because I have a dear friend. We have a dear friend we all know who had the same experience, actually. And so I went through that process and now I just offer to teach it to people. But for me, energetically, from a soul level, being able to state, I see it, I understand it, I accept it. I don't agree with it, right? But I accept that it happened and I release it. It's the biggest release. And then to everybody's point, especially Nikki and Samantha, does not mean you have to have them in your life. And I 9 times out of 10, I do not and have not and probably will not, right? But they feel it and we feel it. I really truly believe that, and I've seen it. So very cool. So Johnny, do you have any? Go ahead.
Sorry. I think personally, I have a challenge forgiving myself.
That's the next question.
Okay.
Well, wait.
No, don't wait. So the next question was, so we've talked a little bit, and I think you've all taught a little bit about various, but very similar methods to do so. So the next question, falling right in line, is have you forgiven yourself? And how does that feel? Nikki?
Yes, but I feel like it requires more effort, more grace. It doesn't come as easy for me as forgiving other people. And I think it has a lot to do with, trauma probably, and wound patterns from my past. But
I think we're always harder on ourselves. Yeah.
Yes, teacher.
I think forgiving yourself is a practice. You gotta do it a lot. Like, I realize you're just doing the best you can.
And also remembering that you're flawed. And when you can recognize the flaws that are hard to forgive, that's the ones you really got to work on so that you can make amends essentially to yourself by not having that flaw anymore.
Well, and it's part of a growth process.
Yes.
Like I say, I'm a work in progress, so I learn from this and go on, I hope.
Ongoing process. For me, it's probably at least once a week, if not more. Forgive yourself, forgive yourself, forgive yourself. And, they talk about the wounded warriors, and we all are, all of that, right? And I know I'm at the top of the list as far as I know. So as far as I feel, so it's an ongoing process, but it's also an instant for me, it's an instant relief when, I'm kind to myself and I forgive myself and I remember my humanity, so we're a spiritual essence walking in human essence, that whole very cliche, but true thing. Johnny, what do you think about, have you forgiven yourself? We're talking about forgiving others. What about yourself? Any thoughts? Okay.
I have a question.
That one.
I have a question for Johnny. I have seen a lot of the First Nation people have beautiful ceremonies and traditions around forgiveness. I just recently got to experience a segment of the Hapona Ono, the Hawaiian tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny, what kind of traditions do you have for forgiveness?
Just forgiving myself. I haven't really focused on the nature, the people, things all around me that should give me that energy to protect myself and to protect everything else around me and the people that I know that's close by and friends out there. And being who I am, I forgive myself to work at it harder and focus on all the dreams and visions I had and carry that on as being who I am, to work harder, forgive myself for being maybe sloppy, maybe not doing it, maybe being lazy, maybe being out of control, maybe being not really trying to communicate with things out there. I need to bring back fire, smoke, talk about Mother Earth more, talk about other things more, and be who I am.
And forgive yourself in the process.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So we've got about, I don't know, 8 to 10 minutes or so. So I want to kind of throw out one final question to everybody. But before I do, I want to preface it for the people watching. So we, there's no mistakes in this life. All 6 of us on this podcast know that, believe that, walk that wisdom and that understanding. And so out of probably 140 topics, forgiveness was the one that came up this evening. And I'm hoping that everybody who's watching gets some nuggets, gets some good nuggets, even if it's just a nugget of recognition that you're in the same space and place as one or all 6 of us, right? I personally feel that we are in a time right now where everything's shifting and tilting, and it's very important that we consider the power of forgiveness soon for everyone, right?
I agree.
Yeah. We are we're doing this podcast because we all feel that the shift is going to continue and it's not ending anytime soon. And there's many beautiful people, many beautiful teachers out there, which all of you are one, and myself included, that know the better way, who know how to walk the good road, who know how to walk the all color road, the red road, the white road, the black road, the yellow road, the road of the sacred, right? And I feel that if anybody walks away with anything this evening, from these wonderful friends of mine and myself on forgiveness, that they really think about it, because we're here to balance the scales. Us workers, we all practice Seva, we all practice the good work. We're here at this time on this planet to balance the scales. So Mama Earth and Pachamama not only goes about her way, but she settles down and she begins to rebirth and thrive, and that includes humanity, right? So that's my kind of my closing for this evening before I pose this final question. So just real kind of quickly, but not necessarily, what do each of you feel has been the most important thing you have really learned about forgiveness? You don't have to think long about it. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe, like you said, you're still learning. But if you could share one nugget with the crowd about forgiveness, what would it be?
It really makes you feel good.
That's kind of what I was.
The weight comes off your shoulders. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with Candace on that. Totally. It's and I bring it back to what I said at the beginning. It brings inner peace.
Yeah.
And a freedom.
Freedom.
Yeah.
I say a process and a gift to yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Any final nugget, Johnny? What's the most important thing you've learned about forgiveness? One thing, the most important. You don't have to answer. You can pass. You can pass the talking stick. Yeah. Okay. All right. You said some good things. So, okay. So, you know what? I think we're at about 45 minutes, probably closer to an hour. I want to thank my guests this evening, our guests this evening. It's for us. It's not mine. 108 Humanities. So we've got Candace Kant up top. We've got Nathan French. We've got his lovely wife and partner, Samantha French, on the bottom. We've got amazing, beautiful sister, daughter, friend, Nikki Slager. We've got my loving, dear partner, husband, Chief Johnny Bob. And we've got myself, Mary Lou. We'll be back next month for 108 Humanity. And I really hope you all join in and subscribe. Definitely subscribe. I forget the whole YouTube lingo thing. Yes, you should subscribe. And pass it on. So, and hopefully everybody has a good feeling in their belly and in their heart this evening. These are real people, and these are my friends, and these are my family. We're all family, right? And so there's a lot of good out there. And the reason we're doing this is to at least balance out the stuff that's not so good, right? On social media and tech as a whole, right? So many blessings, lots of love, and thank you to all of you.
Thank you.
And we'll be back next month. Okay.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay.
Love you, Mary Lou.
Love
Thank
you.
you, Candace, Johnny Bob, Nate. Love you all. Love everybody else.
Okay. We'll see you next month. Bye-bye.
Bye.